Hello and welcome to Competitive Crunch. My name is Spade and today we'll be looking at the Underused beta usage statistics of January 2014. And these are the first UU beta stats ever in the existence of the Generation 6 metagame by Smogon. So, as you know, UU beta is a mess. That's why they call it beta, that's why they call it unfinished, because there's just so much fluctuation going on, and this is the first month that the UU beta was available. So yeah, it's a complete mess, but I think it's extremely interesting to see which Pokemon people were using the most during the first month this Underused beta tier was available. So without further ado, let's look into it and guess which Pokemon was the #1 used this month. Here we go. And it is Bisharp. And Bisharp definitely a great Pokemon in this generation. The Steel Dark coverage that it has is great in this generation because of the Steel nerf. On paper you'd think Bisharp would actually get hurt by it, and perhaps it does, you know, defensively speaking, but offensively Steel Dark coverage is awesome. And you also have the infamous move Knockoff, which got a buff in this generation, and Bisharp can definitely spam it and take advantage of that move, because it has that 125 base attack, I do believe, and whenever you'll be knocking off an item, Knockoff's power comes from 65 to 97, and so when you got stab and you have the utility of removing an item, you know, that's what Bisharp is all about, spamming that knockoff, and you also have the Sucker Punch to kind of make up for the lackluster base 70 speed that it has, and then you round off the coverage with your secondary stab move, Iron Head. And the Steel Dark coverage, again, it's just so great offensively. And defensively speaking, Bisharp remains like one of the few, if not the only, Steel-type Pokemon that still has a resistance to Dark and Ghost, which, you know, other Steel types don't have anymore because of the nerf. But so Bisharp still has that resistance because it's partially Dark type, and the offensive Steel Dark coverage is just really awesome for it, and that's why it's being used a lot. And a lot of people say that Bisharp perhaps should get the Banhammer from the UU beta metagame, but most likely Bisharp will actually be rising naturally to the OU tier, because if we take a look, I think it's at the OU already. Yeah, there's Bisharp at 48, and it actually has 3.7% usage in the OU tier at the moment. So if this usage just keeps up, Bisharp will be naturally rising up to the OU tier, where it also, besides of being the great offensive Pokemon with its coverage moves, it also has the niche of dealing with, you know, Sticky Web. So that's why Bisharp is also gaining a lot of usage in the Overused tier. And of course the cutoff point for the Overused tier, and I believe also for other future tiers, whenever they're made official, is 3.4%. So Bisharp is above that limit. So if the usage will just keep up, Bisharp will be rising to the Overused tier whenever there's gonna be official tier changes and stuff like that. I guess there still, you know, isn't any kind of official tiers, you know, in a sense that, you know, Underused beta was just created from the usage of the highly fluctuating OU tier at the moment, at the time. So there's that. But whenever the tier changes will be made, there's a good chance that Bisharp will be rising to the OU tier. But I've talked about Bisharp in the past so many times, so let's move on. But the #1 Pokemon in the Underused beta at the moment, so I thought it would deserve some credit again. So second one is Blastoise, and of course it received a Mega Evolution, which is pretty cool, and also coverage moves like Aura Sphere and Dark Pulse, which are great moves for it. And besides, you know, Deoxys Speed and Defense, while they were available in the UU beta tier, they were being used a lot, you know, spreading hazards. So Blastoise was one of the few spinners around to stop it, and when you look at the UU beta, you don't even have too many good defog users. You know, the general problem is that even though defog has high distribution, as opposed to Rapid Spin, you know, there's only like a handful of things, or two handful of things, that can actually use defog efficiently. So, Rapid Spinning is still good thing, and I think Blastoise is the Pokemon for the job. And not to mention, you know, offensively, you know, it can stop Rabbit Spinners when you especially have Dark Pulse to destroy Ghost types, coming off from Mega Blastoise's respectable special attack. So there's that. You know, Blastoise has the awesome coverage and Rabbit Spin utility, so it's still a great Pokemon. It was a great underused Pokemon in the last generation, and I think it will still continue to be that, because it's not really gaining that much momentum in the overused tier. Then number 3, there is Latias. And Latias, of course, not really being used because it's kind of just outclassed by Latios. That's how the thing has always been. But the one thing, the niche that Latias has had always is it's bulkier than Latios. And so because of that, the substitute Calm Minding set has been really popular in the past. And all sorts of defensive sets, like Dual Screen, and then you had like Healing Wish on that, or does it get Memento? I think Latios gets Memento. I don't know, but defensive sets are basically the thing. Calm Mind, really popular set on Latias in the past. But now in Generation 6, the problem is, because of the Calm Mind was usually a mono attacking with Dragon Pulse, now of course you have Fairy types that are completely immune to the Dragon Pulse, so suddenly Latias is not that great of a Pokemon, because of the nerf that dragons got in this generation. So because Latias is always seen as more of a defensive threat, it cannot perform this job so well. Of course it can be kind of like a mini Latios. You can still slap a Specs on it, but it's still not the same as Latios. That's why it's not being used so much. And I don't know if Latias is really even broken in the underused beta tier, because there are fairy types like Mega Gardevoir and Florges. And, well, speaking of Mega Gardevoir, that's a highly controversial Pokemon, because, you know, it's known to be spamming that Pixelate boosted Hyper Voice, which kind of destroys everything that doesn't resist it. And then you have coverage moves in form of like Psyshock or Psychic, you got Shadow Ball, Focus Blast, so nothing really enjoys switching into this Mega Gardevoir. That's why it's being used so a lot, and perhaps now that there's been lots of recent underused beta bans that I have talked about in separate videos, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail about those, but there's been a bunch, like close to 10 Pokemon that have been banned. So at the moment, Mega Gardevoir is gaining even more momentum, and perhaps now with all the other broken Pokemon out of the way, that will make Mega Gardevoir that will make Mega Gardevoir even more broken than it was at the beginning, because you don't need to worry about those other broken Pokemon. So Mega Gardevoir is at the moment filling the vacuum of power, and perhaps it will receive the ban hammer. We shall see, but definitely a really dangerous Pokemon in the underused beta at the moment. Then number 5, Darmanitan. It was a solid UU Pokemon in the past, and apparently keeps gaining momentum. I don't know, perhaps because of all the fairy types and Darmanitan having the resistance to fairy, being a fire type. Maybe that's a thing. But in the past it had huge competition with Victini, sharing a similar role. But usually Victini was, well, both of them had their pros and cons. And the thing with Victini, of course, was that it could go mixed, and, you know, Victini could just spam that V-Create, which was a thing, and Darmanitan was spamming Flare Blitz, but at least at the moment, Darmanitan is used more. Where is Victini anyways? Is it even number 30? Oh, that's kind of surprising, but, you know, again, there's fluctuation within the tiers, but Victini defensively, Psychic and Fire typing isn't that great, and perhaps because everybody's spamming knockoff, you know, it's not so safe to be running, you know, Victini, because you definitely won't be switching into any kind of knockoff, really. So there's that. Perhaps because of that, Darmanitan is the fan favorite at the moment. Then number 6, we got Florges, that specially defensive fairy type. It kind of lost the war to Sylveon in the overused tier, and now we have Florges down in the underused beta, being the specially defensive monster. I think UU beta, or even the future UU, would fit well for the Florges, because it doesn't really have good momentum going in the overused here, and because there's that Sylveon running around, and both of them kind of run similar roles, but I think Florges could be a great, especially defensive wall addition to the underused beta, and that is definitely what it seems to be at the moment, because people are using it a lot. Then number 7, we got Heracross. Obviously, Mega Heracross was gaining a lot of attraction, having that sky-high attack coupled with the high base power moves thanks to Skill Link. You have Pin Missile, Rock Blast, Bullet Seed, then Close Combat, and Earthquake, and you're pretty much set to go with the coverage moves of your choice, and Mega Heracross kind of just destroyed everything. Not to mention, Heracross in the past, in the Generation 5 UU, it was kind of dominating the metagame. So even though the Mega Heracross got the Banhammer, I would still imagine Scarf Heracross being a thing that's going to be used a lot, because it's a great Pokemon with the Moxie, and especially everything like running knockoff now. You don't need to worry about something like Gligar too much, because Gligar was the #1 counter to Heracross in the past. And now you got knockoff running around, so it's suddenly not as great as it was in the past. Not even sure where Gligar stands in the underused beta right now. Probably not being used too much, because there's so many other things where the attraction is at the moment. So yeah, a lot of fluctuation, and still in the UU beta, obviously, so don't really even need to discuss about Gligar's stage at the moment. So anyways, Chandelure is number 8. I think it was in the suspect list of the underused beta. You know, I don't think it received only like 1 or 2 votes or something like that. But you know, it's a solid Pokemon like it was in the past. I would still think it still has kind of the same role. It has that massive special attack, and I guess the only thing coming to Gen 6 is that it can spam Shadow Ball easier, although it didn't need to worry about Steel types in the past anyways, being a Fire type. But you know, Chandelure has that monstrous special attack and coverage moves to kind of destroy everything, so not really surprising to see it this high in the metagame. Then we got Medicham, of course, receiving attraction because of its Mega Evolution. A lot of people also say that Mega Medicham should be banned, and perhaps it will be on the next suspect list and receive the Banhammer. It was actually pretty close. Both Medicham and Gardevoir, or their Mega Evolutions, received 5 out of 12 votes. But you know, there's just so many other broken Pokemon that got banned. But as Smogon is operating, how Smogon is operating is that they're banning Pokemon in small groups and then they will see how the metagame develops, who will be taking the Vacuum of Power again, and most likely Mega Gardevoir and Mega Medicham will be filling the Vacuum of Power left by the bans of the already existing Pokemon. Now that there's no Deoxys defense, I'm sure Mega Medicham will have easier time spamming that high jump kick. The only problem with Mega Medicham is that, you know, you have low base power coverage moves. You got high jump kick, but besides that, you have to rely on like Psycho Cut, which isn't too strong, and then like elemental punches, and that kind of hurts it, but still it's a powerhouse, a force to be reckoned with, and that's why it might be receiving a Banhammer in the future. But not really surprising seeing it this high, because a lot of other Mega Pokemon received the Banhammer, but Mega Medicham still stays, so it has had that consistent usage throughout, so that's why it's number 9. Then we got Slowbro, which is another solid underused Pokemon in the past, and I think it still is one of the good Pokemon, I guess, to deal with Mega Medicham, although I guess there's Thunder Punch. So there's that. But another thing that Slowbro has in this generation is Assault Vest. That has gained some popularity, because obviously you have Regenerator and you have awesome coverage moves. You can spam Scald and Fire Blast, and Ice Beam, I guess, is also an option, and I guess Psyshock, Fire Blast, Scald, maybe Ice Beam, maybe, I don't know, I don't think you want to have any kind of hidden power, but you have your options, and you can spam them despite being not able to recover, and when you have that Regenerator, and then you will with the Assault Vest, we will patch Slowbro's one weakness, which is on the specially defensive side. So that's another thing that's somewhat gaining attraction at the moment, I do believe. Then there's Keldeo, but right above it, there's Slowbro, which is kind of a solid stop to Keldeo, resisting its dual stab and perhaps having the Assault Vest to buff up its special defense. So even, you know, something like, I don't know, Hidden Power Ghost. That's what you kind of need to rely on. Although I don't think that's a thing with Keldeo. But, you know, Keldeo has its stop in the form of Slowbro, like I mentioned just now. And then there's even Celebi, which is kind of down below. But it's still there, so I'm not really... Some people say that Keldeo is too broken. Also, there's Latias, so right there, 3 solid counters. I think you could call them counters, because I just don't see ways of Keldeo really breaking through any of them. I guess there's Hidden Power Bug for Celebi, but you know, it's not really a thing. And if you're running Hidden Power Bug, then you will just end up getting walled by many other things. And you still can't get past Latias, so that is a thing. But you know, so at least at the moment, Keldeo has many ways you can stop it in the Underused metagame. So at least at the moment, it seems just fine. Some people are, of course, freaking out about it, but of course, you know, in this generation, the rain nerf is the main thing that hurt Keldeo, and that's why it's not in the overused tier. Then we got Metagross, and that's another Pokemon that can benefit from the Assault Vest, and it's definitely gaining some popularity. And especially since there's a bunch of Steel types around here, definitely having Metagross around is not too shabby. You can spam that powerful Meteor Mesh, which I do believe got nerfed in this generation, but you can still spam it. Metagross will do significant damage on it. I think it gained some accuracy, but it lost some power, if I'm not mistaken. But you can still spam it. Of course, you had the Bullet Punch too, so for that nice little priority. And yeah, with Assault Vest, you're able to take some special attacks better than you could in the past. So, and especially when Metagross is more of a physically defensive Pokemon, with Assault Vest you can make it all around a bulky tank that can dish out some serious damage. And then there is a Scolipede, which received the Ban Hammer quite recently, and obviously with the speed boost it was gaining a lot of attraction. And you know, you can baton pass with it, you have Sword Stance, speed boost sub, your basic set, and then you can obviously you could even sweep with Scolipede. You have the offensive option with like Mega Horn, Earthquake, Rock Slide, and then you can even set up entry hazards in form of spikes and even toxic spikes. So it was kind of a too versatile Pokemon, and the easy baton passing is what really made it broken in the UU beta, and that's why it was banned, and that's why it was also gaining so much usage. Then there's Aggron. You know, there's the Mega Aggron that's gaining traction at the moment, obviously, and you know, it's a solid stealth rocker. It has the filter ability too, and gets rid of the with the Mega Aggron, you get rid of the nasty rock typing, and that makes Mega Aggron a pure steel type. And with filter, it's a solid bulky tank that can dish out some damage. Of course, you lose on your rock stab in form of head smash, but you know, Mega Aggron is still a cool kid at the moment. Then there's Diggersby, a powerful wall breaker, which didn't really cut it in the overused tier. So obviously the next best thing is to try it out in the underused tier, or in the beta at the moment. And the normal ground coverage really isn't too bad. You have the option to boost up with like Sword Stance to Wall Break, or try and sweep with Agility. So you have multitude of options. That's why Diggersby is a really solid Pokemon. Then there's Crawdaunt, kind of like the Azumarill of, I guess you could even say about both of these Pokemon, kind of like the Azumarills of the underused beta. Especially Crawdaunt being a water type, having access to Aqua Jet, Sky High attack, buffed up, not with huge power, but with adaptability. And also Crawdaunt having access to knockoff is a thing. You can just spam that knockoff. You slap a choice band on Crawdaunt and you're pretty much set to go. And yeah, in this generation, Crawdaunt indeed gained Aqua Jet, so you don't need to worry about that speed that much. You know, it's still a problem. Aqua Jet is a weak move, but now you kind of have a way to bypass the speed problem, or at least on the choice bandit sets. Of course, you could still run a Dragon Dancing Crawdon, so that is an option. Then we got Hydreigon. Definitely a dangerous Pokemon. Really got hurt by the Fairy types in this generation too, because in the past it was a Pokemon that was extremely difficult to counter, because it could still go mixed in the end, and it has the coverage moves on the special side to kind of destroy everything. So that was a problem, but now with the introduction of Fairy types, it is much easier to deal with Hydreigon, especially with something like Florges running around here. So, but I don't know. Still, besides like Florges, you don't have too many good options to really deal with it. Well, even with Mega Gardevoir, I don't know. You know, you take neutral damage from Dark Pulse, so I wouldn't call Mega Gardevoir a counter to Hydreigon. It's a solid check, but nothing more. So, besides like Florges, which is a really popular Pokemon hurting the usage of Hydreigon. Besides Florges, if you can get past that, Hydreigon is a really dangerous Pokemon that that the rest of the metagame really has trouble with. So that's why it's still being used decently enough in the UU beta. 17, in fact, is more than decent. Followed by Haxorus, the power creep of Generation 5. It was really losing momentum at the end of the Generation 5 OU metagame. It was kind of dropping down towards UU, but it never did, and now we finally get a chance to try it out in Generation 6. Generation 6 underused beta at the moment, and you know, Fairy types obviously do kind of hurt it, but Haxorus is a power creep with that, was 147 base attack, I think. But yeah, the Fairy types do hurt it, and I guess the fact that, you know, Haxorus has really no way of going mixed, and its coverage moves are really limited. You have like Rock Slide or Superpower as your options, so you don't have what really hurts Haxorus is the lack of a powerful physical fire type move. It never got it, and I don't know, that kind of hurts Haxorus, but it's still a power creep that you definitely need to take serious whenever you're facing. That's why it's number 18. Then there's Crobat, the awesome utility Pokemon of Generation 5 UU, still remains in the top 20 of UU Beta, and definitely a solid Pokemon. Has a bunch of utility moves still, and I guess you can run Choice Band set on it, and in this generation it did gain Defog, and it's one of the fastest users of Defog, so that's definitely a cool thing with Crobat, but it still kind of suffers from that 4 move slot syndrome. It has a bunch of great utility moves, and then you now have Defog too, so what do you want to lose? Like Taunt or Roost, or you don't want to lose your only attack being like Brave Bird usually, and you could even run Poison type attacks now, because Poison is slightly better offensively now. But you don't really have a slot for it, so that's kind of a thing hurting Crobat. But, you know, fastest defogger, which is really cool. Then there's Arcanine at the spot number 20. A really solid underused Pokemon in the past. And, you know, the Morning Glory set is what was really popular in the Generation 5, and I think it's still a thing. And you have awesome moves like Close Combat, Flare Blitz, and then Extreme Speed for that priority. So it has a bunch of different kind of moves. It can be used offensively, more defensively. So there's a bunch of different options that are gaining usage for good old Arcanine. Then there's Nidoking, obviously still the Sheer Force set that was running in the past, still gaining that momentum in Generation 6 as well. Really difficult to switch into. Now I guess you could even consider running that Sludge Wave in this generation, because, you know, again, Poison slightly better offensive typing, so that's really the one major change for Nidoking. You can consider running Sludge Wave, but you still have the coverage provided by Earth Power, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, so pick your poison, and maybe Poison type move like Sludge Wave. Then there's Empoleon, another Pokemon that could use Defog, but it could also support your team with Stealthrox. It slightly got hurt by the Steel nerf, but it still has a bunch of resistances, a great defensive typing in Steel and Water, and has those ways of supporting your team. And I guess you could even run the good old Salackberry set, but that's like so Gen 4. Really not so great in the current generation. Or not Salackberry, but Pataya Berry. It's agility with Pataya Berry. That was the thing in Generation 4, which was so cool. But anyways, moving on, there's Deoxys Defense, which got recently banned. And, you know, obviously, where is Speed? Oh, so, I guess, yeah, Deoxys Speed got banned a lot earlier than Deoxys Defense, so makes sense. But Deoxys Defense, a great friend of Hyper Offense, has Taunt to shut down Defog users, has coverage moves to destroy, you know, things that would try to spin on it. So, not to mention, there aren't too many good Defog users or spinners around, so Deoxys Defense had easy time setting and spreading those hazards around and destroying the few things that could, you know, stop it from spreading those hazards. So, you know, it recently got banned. That's why it's only 23, I guess. Then there's Mew. I've been using this thing as a Defog user, because honestly there aren't too many good users, but Mew has the utility. It can pretty much do anything at once, but it's just kind of mediocre at its role, because, you know, in the past it was a great baton passer, but now back in Generation 5 there came Smash and Pass, which kind of took that role from Mew. And then offensively you have better options, because pure Psychic, you know, isn't that great, but Mew has all these options. It's just so unpredictable, but still in the end it's quite mediocre. That's why it's not used more, but it's still a solid Pokemon, because it can do pretty much anything that it wants. And it's kind of hard to know what kind of set is Mew going to be running, because it has so many different options, but still just so mediocre that it's not really broken or anything. At least at the moment it doesn't seem like that way. Then there's the Raptor, which also got banned, and nothing in the UU beta could switch into this thing. You have Brave Bird, you have Double Edge, and that coverage is rounded off with close combat, and then you have the awesome U-turn for momentum, so you're set to go and destroy everything pretty much. And then good old Umbreon is there, Celebi is there, pretty I think it was in the Underused back in Generation 5 at the beginning, but I think what kind of lifted it up to the OU tier was the fact that Rain Teams were really common, Gastrodon was really common, Rotom Wash was really common, so that really gained Celebi some momentum back then. I guess there's still Rotom Wash in the OU tier, but I guess the lack of Rain and the lack of need for countering Rain is what kind of hurt Celebi's usage. It still has so many different sets that it can pull off. It can be physical, special. It's the same thing with Mew. It can be physical or special or defensive, specially defensive. You know, there's all these options with the cute base 100 Pokemon. Except for Victini. That works kind of only offensively. But anyways, talking of Celebi again, you know, it has multiple. It's kind of known for its support sets. You know, it can set up Stealthrox. There's that Tinkerbell set. You can have that support with Thunder Wave for your team. You have reliable recovery in form of Recover. You can still go offensive with Nasty Plot. So there's so many options. There's Parry Song if you wanna, you know, kill Stall. So yeah, it's overall a Pokemon that can do so much, but at least at the moment it's not OU worthy. So I could see this Pokemon a solid UU Mon, especially when there's things like Keldeo running around, and Celebi is a solid thing to at least try and stop it. Then there's Zapdos, good old Zapdos from Generation 5 UU, still remains to have some momentum in Generation 6. Didn't really gain anything specific. I guess Defog. It can't be running Defog, but then again Zapdos has already pretty solid sets in the past, so it kind of has the same problem as Crobat has. It's difficult to slice in that default, but it's still a solid underused mon. You got reliable recovery in form of Roost, and you can spam like Thunderbolt, or you could even have momentum with Volt Switch. You could even go more offensively, I guess, with Specs and Scarf, so you have options. Then there's Mega Manectric, which is gaining attraction, has, I believe, 135 speed and special attack. Intimidate as its ability, but it has awesome coverage moves, and Manectric in the past, it has been just so mediocre, but Mega Manectric kind of patches up that problem, being stronger and faster. Of course, you cannot have any kind of item on it besides the Mega Stone, but it's still a force to be reckoned with. Then there's Victini. I guess it's really hurt, like I said earlier, hurt by the knockoff buff, and that's why Darmanitan is the one being used more often, but it can still spam that we created, which is kind of a cool thing. Then there's Mienshao. Kind of lost a lot of momentum coming to Generation 5, but there's still multitude of sets that you can run, the Faking Out and the Regenerator and the Scarf set. I guess even Bandit one and Sword Stance, that's an option too. And then you can have like, I guess what kind of hurts is that Hidden Power nerf, because it was kind of relying on Hidden Power in the past. But then again, one thing that I was really using HBIs for was like Gligar, which is really nowhere to be seen. So there's that. But, again, there's so many new options. So that's why a lot of old underused Pokemon are not so high in the usage, because of the fluctuation. People are focusing on the new Pokemon. It's the new toy syndrome. People are experimenting during the first month and the upcoming months with all the new Pokemon. So that's why some old Pokemon that would still could be considered good for the metagame are not used so often. Then there's Absol with the Mega Absol. Obviously, people are wanting to try that out. It's not as good as some other Mega Evolutions that are higher up in the tiers, but certainly most likely will be gaining more momentum now that a lot of the Mega Pokemon and other broken Pokemon have been banned. So we shall see what leads to Mega Absol in the future. Then there's Noivern, which was receiving some good momentum at the beginning of the metagame, even in the overused tier, but then in the end, it's not that strong. It has the speed, but it doesn't have the power, which kind of hurts it. But it does have like Draco Meteor, Hurricane, and I believe Flamethrower, so that's really awesome coverage right there. But still, it's the lack of power that really hurts it, but it's still really fast, which is a great asset for it. But perhaps you will be a better environment for the Noivern with its lack of power. And then there's Porygon 2. I believe like knockoff kind of hurts Porygon 2 like it does with all the Eviolite users, but it's still a solid sturdy wall. So yeah, it's kind of midway of the underused at the moment. Then there's the good old team player Swampert. And Swampert is a solid Pokemon really for any team to set up those Stealth Rocks. And you can spam Scald with it. You have Earthquake. You got Ice Beam for like dragons. I guess now you can use Ice Beam for Noivern too. So there is that. But Swampert, a solid team player, has great bulk, can provide your team with Stealth Rocks, and that's why it's kind of midway of UU. Then there's Chansey, another Pokemon kind of hurt by the buff of knockoff, but still we all know how bulky Chansey is. And while it doesn't have too good momentum in the overused tier, obviously the next best thing is to try it out in the underused beta. I think in the past, in Gen 5 it got banned to BL. It was always this competition between Chansey and Blissey in the overused tier, which one are gonna be used more. But I think in this generation Blissey will win because of the introduction of knockoff. Because if you knock off Blissey's leftovers, it's like, yeah, it does hurt you, but if you knock off Chansey's Eviolites, you might as well be using Blissey, And Blissey has the actually the option to be running offensive moves. And yeah, the presence of knockoff is scary, but Chansey is still, if played correctly, is a great sturdy wall that can take most attacks from anything in the underused beta tier, except for Staraptor, which is now gone. So That's pretty cool. Then there's Roserade, a really solid underused Pokemon in the past, but now obviously, you know, the attraction is somewhere else, and that's why, you know, good old Roserade is not used so much. Then there's Weavile, which actually gained Icicle Crash in this generation, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool new toy for it. I guess it could also spam knockoff, but I'm not sure if that is a legit combination of moves that you can have on the same set, because a Generation 6 Egg move and Generation 5 Tutor move. Perhaps there will be move tutors in the future with Pokemon Z. That could be a thing for Weavile, but yeah, I guess it has Icicle Crash, but nothing else new besides it, so there's that. Then there's the Rotom Heat, which is usually known to be the Rotom of the underused tier, and definitely the fire electric coverage is great for it, but much like a lot of other old underused Pokemon, you know, it's not gaining momentum at the moment because there's so many other new things in the new underused beta tier. So there's that. Then there's good old Ambipom, also losing momentum due to a bunch of these new Pokemon. We shall see what is going to happen to Ambipom, but it didn't really gain anything new, so not surprising seeing it so low. Then there's Jellicent, which really got hurt in this generation. On paper, like, you don't really know. It's hard to see like what is the thing that really hurt it, but I guess you know, because of defog, there's no really need for spin blocking that much anymore. So, and Jellicent was one of the top spin blockers in the OU tier in the past generation, and you know, now it cannot do that job so well. And also, I guess it was a solid Pokemon in the rain. It could spam that skull, do some significant damage, but it doesn't have that option anymore. And now there's knockoff, you know, being spammed everywhere. So I think even in the underused tier, Jellicent has trouble walling anything, and it certainly seems that way because it's not really used that much. And I guess it's the same kind of thing with Cofagrigus. And what kind of hurts Cofagrigus is that, you know, one of the popular set was the Nasty Blood Trick Room set, and now that Hidden Power is nerfed, it cannot really rely on HP fighting that much to be doing significant damage. It couldn't even do that in the past, and now it's hurt even more. I guess one thing it can do is set up Toxic Spikes, but, you know, Toxic Spikes aren't really that good, so yeah, there is that. Then there's Tornadus Therian, which, well, basically because there's no more rain, that really hurt good old Tornadus. It's still really fast, but, you know, it doesn't have reliable moves to begin with. You need to, your best moves for coverage are Hurricane and Focus Blast, and we all know how infamous they are for missing. But, you know, basically because there's no rain, Tornadus Therian isn't really doing too well. Of course, it's still kind of a nuisance, you know, Regenerator, you turning around with Life Orb and still having those powerful moves. And besides that, Hurricane did get nerfed in this generation. It's now 110 as opposed to 120 base power. So many things really hurt Tornadus Therian, but it's still really fast. So there is that. But at least at the moment, it doesn't really seem as a threat in the underused metagame. I may be mistaken though. We shall see. It does have the speed and still the coverage moves, but it's still kind of an unreliable Pokemon, so there's that. Kingdra used to be a solid Pokemon in the underused tier in the past, but I don't know. Like many other Pokemon, it's losing momentum due to other new stuff in the UU metagame, so, or in the beta. So that's why it's not being used that much. It does have the gimmick of Scope Lens and Sniper, you know, Focus Energy, getting crits all the time, but, you know, it's still kind of held back by its speed. But it can be doing Dragon Dancing, but, you know, it's losing momentum because, yeah, so many new things. Magnezone, I guess there's no real need to be trapping anything significant in the overused tier. Steel types kind of got nerfed anyways with the, you know, whole thing of Steel nerf, so there's no need for Magnezone. That's why it has been dropped down to the underused beta at the moment. That people are not really interested in trapping any Steel types. in the past it was all about that Dragmag, you know. You track those steel types and then you just spam Draco Meteor Outrage, but now you don't even have need to do that or trap steel types in general because they significantly got hurt defensively in this generation. So there is that. Holucha, kind of an interesting Pokemon with Sword Dance. I guess the Power Herb Sky Attack is kind of a thing for this Pokemon, but I don't know. I think it's gonna find its place. Definitely after the UU beta is gonna be, whenever it's gonna be balancing out in the future, I think it would be gaining some more momentum, but still kind of a mediocre Pokemon. That's why it's not being used that much. Then there's Ditto, which is Ditto. You know, it's always a gimmick, doing its thing with the Imposter and Joy Scarf. Then there's Aerodactyl, that also gained Mega Evolution, but, you know, it's kind of mediocre one, so that's why it's not being used too much. Perhaps now that a bunch of other Megas are gone, it will gain more momentum. It is certainly fast. Has tough claws, but, you know, kind of lackluster coverage moves. So, you need to rely on, like, Stone Edge, Earthquake, and then, like, Elemental Fangs, so, I don't know. But it's still definitely fast. So we shall see. Perhaps now with the other Megas gone, Aerodactyl or Mega Aerodactyl would be gaining more momentum. Then there's Machamp, another Pokemon that gets hurt by the introduction of all the new stuff in the metagame. So still a solid Pokemon, but not surprising seeing it so low here. Then there is Hippowdon, solid wall, definitely a Pokemon that you can use to take on something like Mega Medicham, I guess. Although there's like Ice Punch, and I would imagine High Jump Kick hurting it. But, you know, obviously when there's no Perma Weather, that kind of hurts Hippowdon, so that's why it's not being used too much. Then there's Deoxys Speed, that got kind of the Banhammer midway through, so it didn't really gain too much momentum. So, but yeah, the time it was in the UU beta, it was a dangerous Pokemon. Setting up those hazards so quickly and still having the sweeping potential. Awesome coverage moves, both physical and on the special side. So there is that. Then there is Jolteon. I don't know. Not really much to say about. I guess it's just kind of mediocre. In the past it was used with Rain Team, spamming Thunder. It cannot do that no longer, and there are other so many powerful and faster threats too now with the Mega Evolutions and everything, so that overall kind of hurts Jolteon's momentum in the metagame. Then there is Shuckle. I guess it's being used because of Sticky Web and Stealth Rock. It's one of the few Pokemon to get that combination of moves, so there's that. Shuckle did gain something new, I guess. And then there's Thunderous Therian, which kind of got banned quickly from the underused beta, but it still had an impact in the metagame for the time it was there. That's why it's number 54. Then there's Hitmontop. I guess it's a solid spinner still, but again, it's hurt by the introduction of everything pretty much, and I guess there are other options to spin now, like, you know, Mega Blastoise is the number one spinner, I guess, and then there's the default user, so I guess that might be hurting Hitmontop somewhat. Then there's Whimsicott. It gained the Fairy typing, so I guess people are trying it out in the underused beta at the moment. Definitely helps Whimsicott defensively, but, you know, it still doesn't really do much besides, you know, having those support moves. That has always kind of been the problem. It's a nuisance, but it's only a nuisance, so yeah, there's that. Then there's Chestnut. Not much to say about it. Kind of a mediocre Pokemon. That's why it's, you know, kind of low on here. It has the same typing as Breloom and Virizion, however you want to pronounce that. But you have the Lead Seed Spikes, Spiky Shield, unique move, which is kind of cool. So it's a solid Pokemon, physically defensive one. So yeah. Then there's Exploud. I guess some people are spamming the Boom Burst with its awesome ability, so there is that. Cobalion has some momentum still, and I think the last Pokemon in the UU beta would be Vaporeon with 3.4%. Then everything besides that is below, and yeah, Vaporeon does have wish passing shenanigans, which is kind of cool. And I guess with all the power creeps and the Mega Evolutions and all the new stuff, you know, good old Vaporeon just not cutting it in the OU tier. That's why it has kind of dropped in usage. And I guess it cannot be using the Hydration Rest anymore. I don't think it was ever really that popular, but you know, it doesn't have that anymore. So you know, it's still a thing that it lost in this generation, I guess. But you know, Vaporeon, I guess, like I said, mainly due to the introduction of all the Megas and all the new stuff. Vaporeon was kind of always a mediocre OU Pokemon. It was a solid wall, but you know, it was nothing to really brag about. It was never a top tier Pokemon, so not really surprising to see it drop down because of all the new stuff. That's what I'm trying to get at here. That's why it has dropped down so much. And yeah, Cobalion, I guess nothing really special. I'm wondering where Terrakion is, because that thing got banned. Did I miss Terrakion? Let me search it. Terrakion. Not Torterra. No. Now we're in the... This is the... Which list is this? No. No. 56. Why did I... I'm sorry. It was right there. I'm blind. Yes. But Terrakion got banned quite recently. Wait, this is it. Yeah, this is the OU list. So where in the world? I'm so confused. And this is... No, I guess it's not... Where in the world is Terrakion? If it's not on this list at all. No. Well, I don't know. Why is it not shown? Well, there's so much fluctuation, but Terrakion got banned because rock fighting coverage is wicked sick. So there's that. But I think I will conclude this episode because I've been rambling for quite some time here. So thank you everybody for watching, and we shall see what the Underused beta will bring us in the future. It's gonna take a long time for the fluctuation to end and die out, and for the metagame to balance in the end. That's the opposite thing that we want to happen, but it's gonna take its time, and it's gonna be exciting to see how the metagame is gonna develop from here. A lot of Pokemon are still getting banned, and we shall see what's gonna happen next. Are Mega Gardevoir and Mega Medicham the next Pokemon that will get banned, or what will happen? We shall see. Leave your thoughts on the Underused beta. What do you think of it at the moment? Well, that's a stupid question because it's kind of a mess. There's no other way around it. At the moment, it is a complete mess of a metagame, but that's how it is at the beginning of each new metagame. There's so much fluctuation, but it's only natural, and in the future it will balance out. But certainly it was interesting to see how people were using the Pokemon during the first month of the new metagame. And yeah, this is the current UU ban list, and I believe Bisharp here is on green color because, you know, it has, at least at the moment, like I said at the beginning, it is currently in the overused tier by natural usage, so there is that. But anyways, I will conclude this episode with these ramblings. Leave your thoughts if you have anything to say. Which Pokemon are the next mons that should be banned in your opinion from the Underused beta? Perhaps the Mega Gardevoir, Mega Medicham, perhaps something else. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will check you guys next time for more CC. Peace out!